Are those of the program host and guest and are not those of WSTU. WSTU does not endorse products that may be mentioned. Any reproduction or retransmission of this broadcast is strictly prohibited without written consent of WSTU. The phone lines are open. Call in with your questions and comments at 220-9788. That's 220-WSTU. It's time for Stuart Laser Talk with your host, Dr. Tred J. Razacker.
I'm 5'10" and 242 pounds.
I always say this is the biggest I'm ever going to be, and I said that like 20 pounds ago.
A third of Americans are obese, another third is overweight.
Obesity is the biggest threat to the health, welfare, and future of this country.
I've always been overweight.
I've got diabetes.
Sleep apnea, heart disease.
Everything's hurting now.
It's a lot easier to lose weight than it is to keep weight off.
This is probably going to be the first generation of children who are going to have a shorter life expectancy than their parents.
18% of our children right now are obese.
It's not only health, it's about survival and well-being of the United States as a nation.
You don't crave broccoli, and our generation has grown up craving a Big Mac.
I want to think that there's something better for me.
Unless we're able to control this epidemic, we're going to have an abundance of chronic disease.
All of us have to be part of the solution to reduce obesity.
The weight of the nation is out of control, but we can fix that.
If we don't now take this as a really urgent national priority, we are all going to pay a really serious price.
Obesity will crush the United States in oblivion.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Razacker, and I am a client, the doctor, and the owner at the Slim Body Laser Spa. I lost 3 to 4 inches of stubborn belly fat in only 3 weeks, laying on my back, listening to music over 7 years ago. And I used a laser to do it. And if you're interested in finding out more, tune in. I'm going to go over all the details about my lipo laser program. We're also going to go into this incredible home exercise machine called a whole body vibration plate, only 10 minutes per day. And doing it for several weeks, you can have results that are just outstanding with strength and bone density improvement and improved circulation, improved energy just by standing on a whole body vibration plate. Super, super effective. Can't say enough for it. I'm also going to go over a little bit about carbohydrates today. You know, good carbs, bad carbs, you know, the truth about carbohydrate. You know, they've given a bad, evil message about carbs, and I'm telling you, they're not all bad. There's some good ones, and there are some bad ones, and you need to know the difference between them. It's so critical for your overall wealth and health, especially if you're trying to keep down body fat. You need to know about carbs. Carbs make fat. That's straight up. Fat doesn't make fat. Carbs make fat. And that's a big misconception that's been promoted for years and years, that low fat is better than high fat. But I'm going to go over that in detail today about that. And today is November 5th, and it's 2019. And we just had a wonderful weekend at the Port St. Lucie Civic Center, the home show. There was a lot of really great people. We spoke to dozens and dozens of people about the process and about whole body vibration. I brought the plates with me to the show, and I stood on those plates for about 2 hours, I guess.
Oh boy!
If you added it all together, it was 3 or 4 hours of boom, 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 boom of shaking. So I'm feeling fit. I think I dropped 2 pounds of water weight over the weekend just from that vibration plate. It was good. Good. Love it. So the name of my office is called the Slim Body Laser Spa, and it's now branded with Dr. Tred's Slim Body Laser Spa. It's you can lose 3 to 9 inches of stubborn fat in only 9 sessions in 3 weeks, literally while you lie on your back and listen to music. There is no harsh dieting, no strenuous exercise whatsoever. I've been doing this procedure for over 10 years. It is my sole focus in my practice. We're very, very successful at it. We are the number one laser slimming center, I'd even venture to say on the whole South Florida area. Nobody has come close in from what I've seen as to the amount of people that we've had, the results that we're able to maintain. And you're so fortunate because it's right here in Stuart, Florida. I mean, what's better than that? The address is 2311 Southeast Ocean Boulevard. It's across the street from the Fresh Market on East Ocean at the intersection of Monterey Road and East Ocean. It's on the way to the beaches. It's a beautiful. It used to actually be the Haagen-Dazs for you Floridians that remember back in the 70s and 80s. It was the Haagen-Dazs. And then it turned into a real estate building. And then I renovated it into a beautiful, friendly, warm, inviting laser spa. And of course, with an emphasis on wellness and health. So, let me think of what we're going to really go over here first. I think the first thing I'm going to go over here is a little bit about this carbohydrate issue. There's a lot of misunderstanding about carbs and about food and proteins. And I think it's important as a provider that I give you a little bit of knowledge so you can make better decisions as you go through your life. You want to know what's good and what's bad. I mean, when you go to the gas station and you put fuel in your car, you know the difference between low octane and high octane. One will get you through the day, but I know with that BMW I bought my wife for her birthday 2 years ago. It's one of those M cars, and it says that the octane has to be over 92 or 95 or something, right on the side. So if you put cheap gas in it, it's you void the warranty actually, and it doesn't perform as well. Yet we eat dead, devitalized food, which are empty calories, which are mainly sugar, fat, and salt, and we expect to have health. That it's not congruent. You wouldn't put dirty, nasty fuel into your car and expect it to run and to work properly. Yet we fill our bodies up with dirty, nasty substances all the time. And they're disguised as food. Well, they're called food, but I don't think they really are food. So of all the food groups out there, this is not very difficult. You really have proteins, you have fats and oils, and you have carbohydrates. Those are the three main groups: protein, fat, and carbohydrate. And I can tell you that protein and fat are your friend with weight loss in reasonable amounts, of course. And carbohydrate can be your friend in weight loss too, but you need to know the difference between a good carb and a bad carb. Okay? So, experts believe that the obsession with low-fat everything has helped to fuel an overconsumption of cheap and easily digestible carbohydrates, which in turn helped feed the recent surge in obesity. Now, until the 1970s, there was a push to tell you that we got to cut the fat out of our diets. Low fat this, low fat that. And there was an obsession in America over having everything low fat. And when you take away fat from food, you have taken away a lot of the pleasure of eating food. The fatty content in food, it blends spices together. It brings the flavors together. Without fat in soups and in stews and in meals to bring those substances so they're together and they're more consistent, they don't taste good. When you eat vegetable and things without any fat, it's limited on its taste value. So fat makes things taste better. It also coats your tongue, coats your taste buds easier than things that don't have fat. So fat makes food taste good. and that's a fact. And protein. So that's one of the reasons for fat is it helps with taste. And also fat is something which the body can utilize right away. In other words, when you eat something that has fatty acids in it, and whether it's protein, vegetable-based fatty acids, because, fats do occur in vegetables, not all animal meat. And those protein, I mean those fatty acid molecules, as they're digested and brought through the intestinal lining of your tummy, they go right into the body, and you can utilize them as energy. Now, some of it is converted to glucose by the liver, which is called blood sugar, but a big part of it is burned right away. So for that reason, fat gives you more energy than other foods. And it's a lubricator. It keeps the joints moving. It helps with a lot of functions that we need. Fat is what builds the tissue walls. In other words, your cells, your cellular structure, the cell membranes is a phospholipid content. So your cell membranes require fat in order to make cells. And that means muscle cells, ligaments, bone cells, everything has this fatty layer. So fat is really, really important when it comes to keeping yourself healthy. You can't really go with no fat in your diet. Now, the other friend with weight loss, along with now there are good fats and bad fats. Let's be realistic. And I believe that too much fat, whether it's a good fat or bad fat, can lead to problems. So you don't want to just have fat. You want good fats. Good fats are vegetable-based fats, fats in avocados, fats in olive oil, the oils. And they call them fats, but at room temperature, they're liquid, but at the cooler temperatures, they can become solid. And so you have olive oils, you've got peanut oil, you've got sesame oil, you've got grapeseed oils. These are all pretty good fats. Coconut oil is, nobody really knows if it's good or bad yet. I read a lot that coconut oil is pretty good. And then I read other studies that say it's not so good. I can tell you that animal fat in its small amounts is okay. Just don't eat too much of it. And those would be your polyunsaturated fats, which would take a whole hour to explain. Saturated, mono, poly, But the fats that are used for frying foods, the oils that are used for frying foods, they're bad. Okay, that's the wrong kind of fat. Margarine is the wrong kind of fat. Now, butter, creams, cheeses, they have a lot of fat content in it. But if those products are holistically raised, natural, organically harvested butter and cheese products that are free of hormones or free of growth, of antibiotics, those fats are really considered very healthy in moderate amounts, in common sense, moderate amounts. So, and they're important. Now, the other food group out there are called proteins. And proteins are very, very important because the protein is a chain of amino acids. And amino acids are the building blocks of life. Your body cells, your tissue, your bones, your nerve system, your muscles, your circulatory system is built from amino acids. Amino acid is the Lego box of Legos that allow you to combine certain size Legos, and you click them all together and it makes a structure. That's what amino acids do. And your body is in a constant state of degenerating and degrading your body tissue. There's always a system breaking down tissue, breaking down the muscle, breaking down the proteins in your body. And at the same time, there's another mechanism which is building tissue. It's taking those constituents that were broken down and have been put into the body and then rebuilding them. Some are removed as waste, but some of them are actually put back into the chain of rebuilding tissue. So how fast your body breaks down tissue, breaks things down, and how quickly it builds things up, that's referred to as metabolism. Your metabolism has to be 50-50. 50% breaking things down and removing toxins and helping to destroy things in a healthy way. And then 50% rebuilding those tissues back into a better state. Now, the nutrients and the substances needed to break down tissues and to rebuild your systems, your heart, your muscles and your body's parts come from the food you eat. That's one of the reasons why we eat food, is we need the building blocks to build our body healthy and strong. The second reason why we eat food is there's energy tied up in the chemical bonds. Within the starch, within the fatty tissue, within the fat, within the proteins, is energy tied up in those molecules. That energy came from the sun. Everything comes from the sun. It's called radiant energy. So billions of years ago, when the earth was a baby and the sun was doing its thing and it was warming the earth, and the sun rays were going through the water and the oceans, and the plankton and the bacteria, they absorbed those sun rays, and that produced the oxygen and the energy necessary to make oxygen. And over those billions of years of the sun, doing its thing on the minerals and on the plants, that sun's energy is absorbed by the plants in the form of starches. And this is literally locked up pure sun energy within a starch molecule. And as these plants proliferate, the animals came along and ate the plants. When they eat the plants, they're getting the energy that's tied up in the starch is now within the animal. And that's what uses the energy to function and to build more tissue. We, in turn, eat the plants, which is a really close, very easy to get energy from plants, live plants, because the energy has not been changed. However, when we eat an animal that eats the plants, we've lost some of that energy, because the plant has been digested by the animal, and then the animal has the protein is where we get the energy from the animals in those proteins. So it's better to get the energy directly as close as you can to natural, which would be more of a vegan approach. Now, you can get plenty of protein from plant sources. You do not have to eat meat to get protein. Remember that. Green leafy vegetables have an enormous amount of protein. 50% of a spinach is protein, which is why Popeye was the guy that had the strong arm. And he would be downtrodden and weak, and everyone would be out after his olive oil, his goyle. And then he would pop open that can of spinach, eat the spinach, and boom, he's strong again. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that, because that's what spinach does. It has protein in it. And Popeye knew that. Yet we forgot about that somehow. And we think that, going low carb is everything. Let me tell you, proteins and good healthy fats are critically important. And we call that a keto diet. For those of you out there who are wondering what this keto is, and that's what it is. A keto diet is a low carb diet. It's a diet high in proteins, high in good fats, and very low in carbohydrate. And that brings you into ketosis, which supposedly changes your blood sugar and builds lean muscle and helps you get rid of stubborn fat that's accumulated for the last 25 years, which, those claims are pretty outrageous in my opinion. However, a diet that's based with good healthy proteins, lean proteins and good fats and a limited, and then good carbohydrates, which would be the complex carbohydrates. These are very beneficial for health. And you need these substances. So let's get into this carbohydrate thing. So one of the problems with carbohydrates, one of the issues that you have to realize is that when your body eats food in its natural state, it has to digest that food. And digestion begins in the mouth. It's called chewing. So there's an old saying, when I was in my dietitian classes, my nutrition classes, when I was in college as a doctor, they had this, the teacher said, in hard, out soft. If you chew something and it's hard to chew, it's going to come out soft and natural. in soft, already processed food comes out hard poops, and he's absolutely right. It's so true. I've seen that anyway. So what happens is when you eat food and its natural state, you chew it, you break up some of the fiber, you start breaking down the molecules, and then the salivary enzymes that are produced in your mouth start to break it down. And at that point, it goes into your stomach, down through your esophagus into your stomach. And once it's in the stomach produces acids and peptides and amylase, which break down and further degrade what you just chewed up. And this starts to release some of the energy from that food and the sugars. And for 3 or 4 minutes to 20 minutes, it's churned in the stomach. That's when you feel your stomach moving. And then it's moved into the what they call the small intestine or the duodenum. And at that point, if there's a high fatty content in that food, your pancreas and your gallbladder squirt out bile. Okay, the gallbladder stores the bile, and bile allows you to break down heavy fatty meals. So that's why people that eat too much fat have problems with their bile ducts, with their gallbladder. Now, right alongside the gallbladder ductwork is the pancreas. Now, the pancreas is a gland which produces enzymes and things to break down the food. They're called pancreatic enzymes. And what happens is these enzymes are highly, they can irritate, and they can, they break down food like acids. So when it's emptied from the stomach, it goes into the duodenum. The pancreas secretes its insulin and its amylase and all of its enzymes to break down food, along with the food as it passes down past the duodenum into what they call the ileum, which is the main part of your small intestine. And from there, it's further moved through, and nutrients are pulled out, and certain bacteria are fed by that food as it goes down through your bowel and out towards your large intestine. There's a whole bunch of beneficial bacteria that are in your gut flora, they call it. And those bacteria need food to survive from what you ate in a semi-digested form. And when you eat good natural food and it makes it to the large intestine, through the small intestine, and those bacteria start to eat it, it's really, really important that you don't poison yourself at the same time. So, and if you're eating healthy, natural food, then those bacteria use those food, they help digest your food. And then at the same time, they produce beneficial byproducts, which are given to you in your gut flora. This is the symbiotic relationship, the beneficial relationship that bacteria have to you and your gut. It's called gut flora. And as the food bolus, as we call it now, it's been mixed, it's been chewed, it's been mixed by the stomach with acid, it's gone past the pancreas and the gallbladder, and those enzymes and the bile has been mixed into it. At the same time, it's going down that tube called the small intestine, and the bacteria are now feeding on these bonds and these energy and these nutrients that are coming from what you ate. As it gets closer and closer to the end result, which is called your rectum, it kind of packs up. It packs up in your large intestine, in your colon. And that is where most of the water is absorbed that you need every day. You don't absorb a lot of water in the upper intestine. You really take the water out in the very end of the digestive system in the colon and waiting in the rectum. The rectum is just a bag that can get pretty large. And when it gets too large, it stimulates a reflex, and it tells you it's time to go to the bathroom. And once it gets enough packed up in there, you can have a normal bowel movement, and you've let go of a whole bunch of food that's just been digested. It's been fed on by your bacteria. It's been mixed with all these enzymes. So you've broken down the sugars and the molecules, and it's also had most of the water has been taken out of it in your colon. So that's the digestive process. Now, carbohydrates in this process are really, really important. And you want carbohydrates that are difficult to digest. Now, the easy digestible carbohydrates, the ones which are easily digestible, they include all forms of sugar. Like, sugar sweetened sodas make it very easy to consume huge amounts of sugar because you're drinking the sugar. That's why it's so dangerous, these sodas. Easily digestible carbohydrates are considered the processed foods, as well as crackers, cakes, breakfast cereals, rice, pasta, and bread. Despite this, as a doctor, the standard, not in my life, but with most medical professionals, the standard advice for type 2 diabetics continues to be eat a low-fat diet. How many times have you heard that? Diabetics are told to try to cut down on sugar and to base their meals on starchy foods, such as potatoes, rice, and pasta. Bread is encouraged, as are breakfast cereals. It's crazy. Now, this doctor was recently, this is, by the way, I'm reading from Dr. Michael Mosley. It's the 8-week blood sugar diet, #1 bestseller. He was at a teaching hospital, and he said he was speaking to a 55-year-old man who was about to have his leg amputated because of type 2 diabetes. And the doctor asked him what he was offered for breakfast that morning. And the patient said, I had a choice of white bread or cornflakes. 20 years ago, you could have been forgiven for feeding a diabetic this sort of food. But since then, there have been literally dozens of studies that have shown again and again that this is not the way to go. A recent review of 20 randomized controlled trials involving over more than 3,000 persons suffering with type 2 diabetes found that for losing weight, their goal was to lose weight, and improving cholesterol numbers and improving blood sugar control, the best bet is the low-carb Mediterranean diet. The Mediterranean diet is moderately high in fat and very low in highly processed carbohydrates. Okay? So, what is the Mediterranean diet? The Mediterranean diet has become incredibly popular ever since studies showed it can significantly cut your risk of heart disease, of type 2 diabetes, and possibly Alzheimer's. It is a diet that emphasizes the importance of eating fruit, vegetables, oily fish, nuts, and olive oil. Yogurt and cheese are warmly embraced, as is a glass of red wine at the end of the day, although this is optional. Now, there are carbs in this diet, obviously, but these are the type that your body takes longer to break down and absorb. So let me repeat that. There are carbs in the Mediterranean diet, but the carbs that are in the Mediterranean diet is the type of carb that your body takes longer to break down and absorb. And that is magic. That is the key, people. If you want to know if a food is good for you or bad for you, as far as your blood sugar goes, you have to look at how easily the body can absorb it and digest it. Anything which is pre-cooked, pre-packaged, pre-whited, broken down, soaked in salt, sugar, and fat, has preservatives, has food coloring. These are processed foods, and these are bad. These are bad for your overall blood sugar. So the type of vegetables that we're talking about in the Mediterranean diet are mainly legumes, which are beans and lentils, not pasta, not rice, and no potatoes. I think it is a fantastically healthful and tasty way to eat. It takes many of the best features of a low-carb diet and makes them more palatable. So it is a really great great diet to be on, the Mediterranean diet. So let's talk about these two types of carbs. You've got simple carbs and you've got complex carbs. The problem occurs is when you eat too much of the wrong type of carb. And carbs broadly come in two main categories. You have easily digestible carbohydrates, and this is the kind that is rapidly absorbed by your body and creates an instant spike in your blood sugar. Simple carbs, easily digestible carbs, includes not just the granulated sugar you add to your coffee or gulp down in sodas, but this also concerns natural sweeteners such as honey, maple syrup, agave, nectar. Processed foods are stuffed full of sugars. Easily digestible carbs also include starches such as bread, rice, pasta, and potatoes. This doesn't mean that rice and potatoes are evil, but don't pile your plate with them. Think of them more as a side dish and then a staple, and try to find some alternatives. Okay, we're going to go on a little break right now. I'm going to come back and I'm going to go over the complex carbs. You're listening to Dr. Tread's Slim Body Laser Spa, and I'll be right back.
Now back to Stuart Laser Talk here on WSTU 1450. And back to your host, Dr. Tread J. Razacker.
All right, we're back. The truth about carbohydrates. You're listening to the Slim Body Laser Spa. I own a laser body sculpting center using lasers to achieve results faster and better than you can with diet and exercise alone. It helps people succeed where they fail. It's pretty much a almost guaranteed result. You just got to come on in and check it out. Okay, so I'm going over the truth about carbohydrates, and I just went over what easily digestible carbs are, and these are not your friend. These are called simple carbohydrates, and those are breads and pastas and rice and potatoes and sodas and candies and anything which is processed. That would be the canned foods, soups, you name it. If it's in a can or in a box and if it has shelf life, it's processed, and it's probably not good for you because it raises your blood sugar too quickly. So the other classification of carbohydrates is complex or unrefined carbohydrates. And this is food in its natural state for the most part. These are the good type of carbs. They contain lots of fiber, which is your friend, making them harder to absorb. Slow absorption is a good thing. These examples of complex, good, unrefined carbohydrates are vegetables, legumes, which are beans and lentils, whole grains. Oh, boy, I just got that thing of bread that said had whole grains. But you know what? They're processed whole grains, and that's not good. Unfortunately, genuine, unprocessed whole grains are hard to find. Well, some breads and cereals may say made with whole grains on the package. Many of these are, in fact, heavily processed or containing added sugars. Easily digestible carbs are the bad carbs because they can cause blood sugar spikes and result in the overproduction of insulin. Now, how do you know if something is a good carb or a bad carb? So the really easy way of knowing it is, and if it's in its natural state, it hasn't been bleached, cooked, processed, canned, preserved, the chances are it's still in a pretty good carb state. But there are some foods which are not processed, which have really high glycemic index. In other words, they break down the sugar too quickly. So there's something called the food's glycemic index. And the glycemic index is based on sugar, which is the baddie, the no-no. And the glycemic index for sugar is 100. And anything that's up, that's the standard of the worst. Down to 0 is the best. Now, foods, vegetables, proteins, meats and fats all can be put into this glycemic index. And I can tell you for the most part, again, the natural foods are better in the glycemic index is lower. Things like carrots, lentils, apples, apple juice. And then here's the bad ones: mashed potatoes, white pasta, whole grain pasta, white rice, brown rice, bagel. These things are like really high in the glycemic index. They're not good for you when it comes to eating this. So I'm going to do a fun little, most people, when they come into the office, they talk about being addicted to carbs. I'm addicted to carbs. What does that mean? So we have a little short quiz I'm going to do here in a moment, which you can write down either yes or no to these answers. Take a piece of paper, and there's going to be, how many questions? There's going to be 17 questions. And you're going to either write yes or no in each one of these questions. At the end of the questionnaire, you're going to add up the numbers of yeses and see which group you belong in. All right? So let me get here. You got a pen there, Michael?
Yes, I sure do.
I'm going to do it for myself. You're welcome to follow along if you want.
I got it.
Okay. So here's the first one. Do you get an instant reward or hit as soon as you eat sweet, starchy, or refined foods? And I'm going to put a yes on that one.
So am I.
Okay. Do you eat 5 or more portions of carbohydrates most days, in addition to sweet things?
Ooh.
This includes pasta, bread, potatoes, rice, and cereals. I'm going to put a no on that one for me.
5? Yeah, that's a lot. I think I'm going to go no.
Okay. Do you often drink sweetened or flavored drinks, including fruit juice and artificially sweetened drinks? And that's a no for me. I figured that one out. So
sparkling water
that would be
count?
Gatorade. That would be anything with sugar or sweet, artificial sweetened, even if it's stevia, diet sodas.
I have to look at the cans.
Do you often drink sweetened or flavored drinks?
I'm going to go with no.
No. Okay. Do you often snack or graze between meals? Yes.
Capitalized yes.
I'm with you on that one. Okay. Number 5. Do you eat 3 or more portions of fruit a day?
No.
I'm with you on that one. I like fruit, but
I do too.
I can't say I eat 3 or more portions.
3 portions.
A day.
That's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot. Okay. Number 6. Do you usually have generous portions of carbohydrate-rich foods with most of your meals? So that would be, big plate of pasta, some potatoes, some rice, 30%, generous portions. Getting over 30% of your calories from starchy or refined carbohydrates, including bread, pasta, potatoes, rice, and cereals. Whole grain versions of these still count as starch.
Boy, that's tough.
Yeah, I know you. No way do you eat that much protein. Well, it's so common to have those carbs, Michael. I mean, the
vegetables count?
No.
Because there's a lot of times where dinner's chicken and veggies because we're lazy.
Okay. So do you usually have generous portions of carbohydrate-rich foods with most of your meals? That would be a yes or a no. I mean, you could say no. It sounds like you're tortured on that one.
Because I view generous as like 50-50. And then I think you later on you said 30%.
Yeah, it's got to be like 30%.
I'll put a yes.
So you want 70% protein and then 30% of that.
I'll
that
put a
carb.
yes.
And usually it's the opposite. Most people. Okay. So mine is no. I figured that one out a while ago. My wife doesn't let me do that. She gives me these little small plates till I just pester her. Okay. Do you often eat to make yourself feel better, such as when you're disappointed or are under pressure or have had an argument?
Yes.
I'm going to put no on that one for me. I figured that one out. Are you eating large portions?
Yes.
Yes. I'm in there. Do you often feel unsatisfied even soon after finishing a meal?
A common phrase to my wife is, I'll never be satisfied. Yes.
See, I'm no on that one. I'm good. I'm satisfied. I guess I'm 59. Yeah, I'm getting older than you. Okay, number 10. Does the sight, smell, or thought of food often stimulate you to eat, even if you've just finished a meal or are not hungry?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm yes on that one.
But it's a lowercase yes for me.
Okay.
It's not an enthusiastic yes.
Do you often, this is number 11. Do you often lose control and eat much more than you meant to, particularly when eating snacks, junk food, or sweets?
Had that conversation with my wife yesterday about I'd rather have snack size bags of
and
chips.
It may involve eating until uncomfortable, feeling sick, or actually being sick.
Yes.
Okay, number 12. Do you often justify eating by thinking just this one time?
Yes.
Or later I will eat better, start the diet, burn it off. I know better than that. I'm a no on that one.
Or my favorite, I'll never do that again. And then I eat the same exact amount the next day.
You know, I'm gonna have to change my answer to yes. I'm having a hard time with this ice cream.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. I give it up, wait 3 days, and I'm back at Fresh Market with another thing of ice cream.
You know, I'm sure it's not good for you, but my parents had some Greek yogurt pops.
Yeah.
They were delicious.
Okay.
100 calories.
Okay. Number 13. Is food often on your mind?
Yes.
Do you frequently find yourself thinking about food during the day? I'm going to put yes on that one too. I'm in trouble. Do you sometimes eat in secret?
Yes, I do. I hide the evidence from my wife.
I do with that ice cream. I hear my wife go, from a distance.
Uh-huh.
So I know I do. I actually have a freezer in the garage.
And that's your ice cream freezer?
I can keep, then I'll walk out like I'm doing the dog thing.
Hide it behind the fish.
God darn. I hate these tests. Do you often feel guilty or ashamed about what you're eating? No.
Yes.
I don't. I've also learned that not to self-loathe myself.
Yeah, but
Because
when I
of
go back to
stupid habits.
eating ramen, that makes me feel bad.
Do you often crave carbohydrates or feel shaky, irritable, anxious, or sweaty without them?
I don't think I get the physical side effects if I don't have carbs.
At lunch, I'll get that a little bit. That's kind of a blood sugar thing. You need that. You're kind of feel like you're losing energy. You fall asleep. You're looking for an energy drink, a pop, something to get you through that. No?
Well, see, a lot of times I find myself actually craving protein in those situations. When I get really hungry, I'm like, I just need a piece of meat.
All right. So I am going to put no on that one for me. I don't allow myself to get to that point anymore. I figured, it's funny is all these no's I have learned and figured out.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So let's do your totals.
Okay.
How many yeses did you get?
1, 2, 3, 4. I got 12.
I got 8.
I win.
If you have 0 to 3, you do not appear to be addicted. You can take it or leave it when it comes to eating carbs and probably have a fairly healthy attitude towards food. 4 to 8. Now I'm at 8. You may be addicted to carbs. You like your carbs, but are probably managing to keep it in check. Boy, isn't that the truth? This may require a certain amount of self-control. At times, you probably find this a bit of a challenge. The problem with carbs can be the more you eat, the more you want. It is a slippery slope. 9 to 13. Moderately, what'd you say it was?
12.
Okay, so you are moderately addicted to carbs.
I'll take it.
You are eating considerably more than you know is good for you.
Yes.
And probably feeling bad about it.
Yeah.
You are likely to be feeling hungry much of the time, preoccupied by food, and at times struggling to control cravings as a result of a degree of insulin resistance.
That's true.
You are probably at risk of developing diabetes if you don't have it.
That's also true, probably.
Now, I have type 2 diabetes. I know my listeners know this also.
Mm-hmm.
And, that was me when I was becoming diagnosed. I was definitely in that 13 number. But with all my education and what I've learned about health, I've managed to, like it says, I've made a lot of changes in a positive way. Now, here's the one who answers yes for almost all of them. You have a severe addiction to carbs. Avoiding carbs is a real challenge for you. You are likely to be constantly hungry, preoccupied with food, feeling bad, and feeling guilty about your eating. You are highly likely to have insulin resistance, metabolic syndrome, given the amount of carbs you are eating and your unhealthy relationship to carbohydrates. You are at significant risk of developing diabetes if you don't have it already. This is definitely worth getting regular health checks. I'll leave it at that, huh? So.
It was fun and depressing.
Yeah, but I see that I've changed.
And that's good.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things I wasn't able to change before. I just didn't know. And please understand that what I just went over is hugely important. I would, as a doctor and someone who deals with people that aren't feeling well, and I study in the research, this is the epidemic. This is the going to crush our economy. When we start this program, we have the trailer to The Weight of the Nation. And one of the statements is, that this obesity crisis is going to crush our nation in cost. If when healthcare goes to single payer, meaning, it's universal healthcare and it's paid for by taxes, and they're going to look at trying to cut costs, because once, they have the right to do that, you're being taxed for something. You have a right to determine what you spend your money on. They're going to look at people that have weight issues and lifestyle issues as creating their own problems, just like somebody smoking cigarettes. If they allowed people to smoke cigarettes and then paid for all their health care, it would be very expensive, as you can imagine. So that scares me. And I want to make sure, that this carbohydrate fixation, this cheap, easily digestible food it is a double-edged sword. It's poison. As I was reading Dr. Mosley's book, he talked about that once you have diabetes and you're in metabolic syndrome, which I am there, I've got 2 of those parameters. I'm fighting it. I had 4 of them. I've got rid of 3 of them. I've got really only 1 of them left. And that's my blood sugar. I got rid of the waist circumference. I've never had high blood pressure. My cholesterol's good. But I still have this blood sugar issue. And what he explains is that sugar for me is a poison. It's not something I can tolerate. My body cannot tolerate it. And for that reason, I have to be super vigilant to keep the sugar out of my diet. And I think I'm talking to probably 40% of the people that are listening are in the same boat. I'm telling you, you got to cut out the sugar. It is poison, and your body just can't handle it. Hey, did you like this, what we went over today? It's kind of interesting. I'm going to go back and do this test again with Mike next year, because I'll be here for another year for sure. And I'll see how he's doing on those yes and no answers. He's also a very honest kid. I know he doesn't, he's not holding back anything.
No point in that.
Right? No point in that. Okay, so you've been listening to the Slim Body Laser Spa Health and Wellness Show. My name is Dr. Tread Rissacker. You can lose 3 to 9 inches of stubborn fat while you lie on your back and listen to music. All you got to do is give us a call, Slim Body Laser Spa. Go online, go to YouTube, come walk into the office. We'd love to take care of you, and have a fantastically blessed day. Thank you. Bye-bye.